What's up, guys? Ricky here with another top 10 list of the MK11 McFarlane toy line, and it's the top 10 so far. He's released enough to where I feel like we're able to make a pretty good top 10 list. Just to let you know, I'm sticking with the MK11, the true kind of Mortal Kombat cast. I'm not including Spawn, and I'm not including Batman Who Laughs or Joker, any of those extra skins. So just to let you know, I did include all the Spawn McFarlane stuff. If they did make the Spawn top 10 list, it's in there. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. It's just something I've been doing lately. I've enjoyed kind of doing these top 10 lists because I typically don't look at my action figures in that regard. I usually think of them as, you know, like there's ones I like more than others, but I've never really ranked them. So it's been kind of fun to do that. So feel free to check out my other videos. I have the top 10 Spawn so far. I have the top 10 DC Multiverse, top 10 Marvel Select, top 10 NECA Predator, etc. So if there's any other top 10s you can think of, and I happen to collect it, I would love to hear it, and I'd love to, you know, make another list there. But I hope you enjoy it, and if you agree or disagree, put it in the comments, and we'll talk about it. But looking forward to taking you on this journey. So here we go. Okay, number 10 on our list is NIGHTWOLF. And I like this figure, so I think it's pretty cool. So I did add a black wash to some of the outfit there just to bring out some of the textures. So I did it on the boots, the legs, just to make it look a little dirtier, little tail thing there, the belt, etc. Right? So I just think that that little bit increased just some of the detail and texture was kind of hidden by some of those brighter colors. But I think this is a pretty cool figure. So you can get it some pretty good poses. It comes with some really cool kind of sold effects, right? So the axes, the bow and arrow. I think it's really cool. So this one, like I said, made number 10. It has really good details, etc. I just think that there are some better ones, obviously, on the list that I prefer over NIGHTWOLF. But NIGHTWOLF did make number 10. Okay, at number 9, we have Johnny Cage. And Johnny Cage, I like this figure. I think that's really cool. So, one, he stands kind of tall. I noticed he's a little bit taller than some of the other MK figures, but I think it's a little interesting because I don't think he's necessarily tall in the video game. But I like his accessories. I think they're really funny, right? The trophy, and he's got the little action figure in his hand. I think it's really cool. I like the texture and the shininess of the jacket. Really kind of looks like it's a 90s kind of throwback, which is cool. Right, love the belt. Love the details, right? They didn't do, like, crazy paint apps by any means, but they didn't really need to with this figure because, I mean, just this style. It's very solid colors, and I don't think you need to add a whole lot to it. And then the shades are kind of fun, too. So, yeah, I think this figure overall, I think they did a great job on him. It's got good articulation, and it's just a fun one to pose and play around with, right? Like, I've done some photography where I get him in, like, boxing stances, kickboxing, things like that. And it's just a really fun character to kind of mess with as far as articulation and just his style. I love the wittiness. I think it's kind of cool. So, that is number 9. Okay, number 8, SUBZERO. So honestly, this is one of my favorite characters from Mortal Kombat. Not my favorite, but one of my favorites. But as far as the action figure goes, I have a couple gripes, but overall it looks pretty good. So you can see the face there, some really good textures and details. And the thing throughout this one, and most of these figures, is really great textures and details, right? So this is the Ice Clone version. I picked it up mostly for photography purposes. The only thing I did have to do is I did add a black wash to all the silver pieces. And I did add some silver paint because the silver they used was a really cheap looking plastic and it just didn't look real at all. So I did do some silver touch-ups and some black wash to just, you know, make those look a little bit better because, like I said, definitely needed some improvement. Now, as far as it goes, the character itself, the articulation is okay. It's got a lot of material, so it's hard to articulate in some positions. And it is very difficult to stand. So that's one reason why it didn't go higher on the list is because, yeah, same thing as like Kitana. It's easier to stand than Kitana, but very difficult to get in poses without falling over. So this one does tend to fall over from time to time on my, my action figure collection. But overall, it made number 8, and I really do like this figure. Okay, number 7 is RAIDEN. And this one actually moved lower on the list, and I'll tell you why whenever I get to the next one. But this figure, I think, is pretty cool. Same thing as some of the other ones. Kind of a difficult time standing. Not as bad as some of the previous, because I can still get in some good poses. However, that is definitely an opportunity. As far as some of the details, I love all the textures and details. The armor looks great. There is no wash on that necessarily. They did do dry brushing though, however, on the pants and the top. So they did a green and then they did a light green dry brush on the top. So I like the extra added details. It really does look really nice. And I kind of like the glossy blue look that they did, which I think looks nice as well. And the staff, they did an excellent job on. That looks like real wood. Huge fan of that one. And then, yeah, as you look, so decent details. Love it. The face looks good too. So big fan of this one. And then this is one of the variants that came in a 2-pack with Scorpion. And see, they did a wash on the belt, which is unique. And I got this one because I did kind of like the blue and the silver. I thought it was pretty cool, but this isn't really the reason why I bought the 2-pack. I bought the 2-pack more for Scorpion. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But overall, it looks pretty good. So, like I said, it made number 7 on the list. But I think there's some other ones that I think are just a little bit better. And overall, the character of Raiden, I absolutely love the character of Raiden in the MK series. And actually, look at that hat. They did a wash on the hat too. And what's cool is this one did come with the effects. So the 2-pack did not, but this one came with 2 effects. So that also kind of, added it up on the list a little bit too. So, yep, Raiden, number 7. Okay, number 6 is Scorpion. And this figure is sweet. Absolutely love it. So Scorpion in general is probably my favorite, or one of my favorites, if not my favorite character in the MK series. Always loved his moveset. Just always loved his character concept, etc. However, as far as Scorpion goes, I think this might be my least favorite concept that they've done for Scorpion. I used to like MK9 looked good, and some of those I think looked really good. Just kind of a little more menacing, a little bit different. They've kind of got more of a samurai look, which some people probably like. I don't necessarily like it as much. Not that it's a turnoff by any means. It's just it's different for me. But this figure I think looks really good. So I love the spear it came with, or the his weapon right there, which I think is cool. The swords are really awesome. Now I did have to blackwash the holsters for the sword. Just because they were too plain yellow. They just didn't look good. I also did a little blackwashing on the knees and on the gauntlets there. Not big time, just enough to kind of make it look better. Because it was just a plain yellow, and it just looked a little bit cheap and kind of unrealistic. And I also did blackwash the chain there, which is pretty cool. So very cool figure. Absolutely love it. And then this one was from the 2-pack that came with the Raiden that you just saw. And I got this one basically because of the gold. I know that sounds really silly, but when I saw the gold on here, I thought, that looks cool. It looks really, man, I can't think of the word. Just looks really awesome. Man, I wish I could think of a better word. Because a lot of times gold on figures looks kind of cheap. I know with some of the Marvel Legends, like at the Marvel Legends Thanos, and the gold on it was very much like that molded gold, that whatever they do, right? It looks cheap, right? It doesn't look good. Whereas this one looks really nice. Looks almost like royalty, which I think is really cool. So that's why I picked this one up. It didn't come with any effects, didn't come with the spear, nothing really. It did come with the swords, though, however. But I didn't have to blackwash any of this one because I think they did some really cool tones, some really cool colors. So overall, this is number 6 on the list, and a very, very cool figure. Okay, number 5 is Baraka. And this is the figure that kicked some of the other ones a little bit higher in the list. So I did have Baraka before Scorpion and before Raiden. So I believe it was like number 7 on the list, I believe. And the thing is that the reason being is because I was basing it off this Baraka, the one that I had, which I thought still looked pretty good, had good details. I really liked it. And then I bought this one recently, which you might have seen the review. If you haven't, check it out. And yeah, like some of the details just upped it on the list. Like it looks really, really good. So let's break this down real quick. So with this one, they did do like this really cool wash on the face that just looks amazing. So good, right? It really emphasizes like just the really cool, I don't know, like killer, disgusting look of like Baraka, right? And it looks good. Like look at those teeth. Like that looks amazing. All right, they kind of went throughout. They still did the dry brushing on the spikes on the back. You have some really cool textures and details on the outfit itself. You can see there, right? Looks good. Look at the wrinkles. Cool looking leather. Everything looks great on this one. And the original, right, was shirtless, which I think looked good, but you can tell a big difference in the face, right? Like, look at the difference that wash makes. It is insane. So that is actually why this one moved up on the list. So this one is number 5 because of the paint details, and I think they just really brought that character to life with that newer model. So Baraka, number 5. Okay, number 4, KABAL. And this figure is insane. Looks good. I love it. So, one, I think the character just detail and design, I think is exceptional. I love the look of this character and some of the stuff they did. Now, I did not blackwash this one. Could it benefit from one? Absolutely. Right? I think a blackwash on the green would look nice. I think even on the skin, if you blackwash, you could bring out some of those details, kind of that more burned look. So you could definitely do that, which I might do. But overall, just like some of the details, right? So you have the hoses, you have the armor here, you have the, obviously the leather coat, you have the underlayer there that looks really nice. You have the back there, you have this part with cables, etc. Right? You got the spikes on the knees, the boots, and his cool weapons. So honestly, just overall, just the character design, I think, is amazing. The articulation on it is fine. I haven't had any problem standing it, putting it into poses. And it's just a really fun looking figure with really good textures and sculpt. Like, just absolutely love it. Like I said, could it benefit from blackwash? Absolutely. So it's not a perfect figure by any means, but is a really good looking figure. And that is why this one made number 4. Okay, number 3 is SHAO KAHN. And this figure is amazing. So one, it stands really tall. So it's taller than all the rest of the MK line, which makes sense because SHAO KAHN is a taller character. But I love just how they brought it to life, right? Like I love the helmet, the jaw, right? Like the skin tone, I think. You know, or I love that it's not super glossy, right? I like the armor. The armor looks good. You have all the cloth material, the leather, the boots. I did blackwash this one on certain parts just to make it some of the textures pop a little more because there were some areas that were pretty plain, but that's still okay overall. And then his weapon there. Looks really good too. So yeah, overall, it's a monster of a figure. It looks good. It's not super articulated. I mean, it is, but because of some of the material, it's hard to put into certain positions. I know I bought a throne and was hoping I could get him to sit in it. Unfortunately, he doesn't sit very well, so there's not a whole lot I can do about that. I know he's definitely a character that, you know, you see frequently in the video games kind of sitting on a throne, which kind of looks epic. But unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get him in too many of those poses. But overall, the sculpt, the detail, everything on it looks really great. So number 3 on the list is SHAO KAHN. Okay, number 2 is KOTAL KAHN. And this figure is exceptional. So let me show you some of the details. So one, they did black there on the headdress, and then they dry brushed like this kind of cool turquoise color just to bring out those details. It looks good, right? You have the armor, really good attention to detail. You can see like the hieroglyphic looking things on the side, kind of like that ancient, you know, stuff. You have the face, which they did a great job on. If it'll focus, it does a. They did a green, and then it looks like they put a brown kind of wash on the inside to make it look kind of old and dirty, which I think's really cool looking. So, big fan of that. I love the extra attention to detail there. You have really good armor. Right? You have the leather look, and the textures on the leather look really good. Right? You have padding there as well. I think the skin tone, they just nailed. Skin tone looks good. I love the white tattoos on there as well. I love the fact that it's not too glossy. You can see here really great details on all the other stuff, the sashes, etc. There's a few parts that could benefit from a black wash for sure. But oh, look at that. I love that design on the front too. Very cool. And then the sword, the weapon looks really nice. And because it's thicker, it's not super flimsy, which I really appreciate because sometimes some of those weapons can be a little flimsy. The only drawback I have to this figure and why it is not a perfect figure is I think it is a little short. Because when I think of KOTAL KAHN, I think KOTAL KAHN should stand somewhere pretty close to SHAO KAHN, right, as far as height goes. And there's a big difference between SHAO KAHN and KOTAL KAHN as far as the height goes. Okay, so here's the height difference just to kind of show. So he's not super short, right, compared to him, but shorter than I expected, right? He's definitely like a whole head height difference for the most part. So if they were like seeing eye to eye, right, you know, you'd be looking at kind of an interesting pose here, right? Oops. Right, so he's quite a bit shorter. So that's what I was saying about KOTAL KAHN. Just a little bit shorter, but overall, amazing figure. And they did some really extra details on these that I really appreciate. So that is why this one was number 2. Okay, here we got Liu Kang, which is one of the honorable mentions for this top 10 list. And yeah, this one didn't quite make the list. I think the figures are okay. I like the shirtless one a little bit better than I like the clothed one, just because there's a little bit more you can do with the articulation. However, I'm not the biggest Liu Kang fan in general. And yeah, I just think the action figures, I mean, they're pretty basic, right? They're pretty simple compared to a lot of the other ones. So that is why this one did not make the top 10 for MK11 figures so far. Okay, another honorable mention is Kitana. And this figure, I think, looks decent. So as far as some of the textures and the paint application stuff, I think the figure looks good. Like, I like that they went with the shiny blue. Fans could obviously use a black wash, etc. But the big kicker, and this is why this one didn't make the top 10, is because I can't get it to stand like at all. So it has these high heels. So, I mean, I can get it to stand straight up and down barely, but this is why I had to do this pose. I think the pose looks good, but I had to do this because it literally won't stand on its own, and you can't really get into dynamic poses. So, yeah, so that's honestly why this one made, or did not make the top 10, just because it's very, very difficult to stand, and I think there's some that are quite a bit better on the... Okay, number 1 on my list is NOOB SAIBOT, and this figure is exceptional. And I'll talk to the reasons why this one made number 1. Overall, this one is one of my noobs. Always been one of my favorite characters from the MK series. I know he's not always utilized a lot, but I've always loved his character design and details. And I've always liked his skill set to his moves. So he was typically a character, if I wasn't using Scorpion, I was using Noob SAIBOT for the most part. But let's take a closer look at the details. So one, as you can see, textures, phenomenal, right? So you can see the hood there, right? You can see the armor, kind of like the leather, but really good details. And look at this, and even the armor they decided to paint, right? So you have like silver, like a really cool colored armor, and they dry brushed like this like copperish, brownish color to make it look kind of old and dirty and kind of rusted, which I think is really, really cool. Right, and they even did a few touch-ups, like look at the front. Look, they even dry brushed some more details over certain pieces, which look good, which they tend to not do on some of these figures, right? They usually keep them pretty plain. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Noob SAIBOT would have came with just silver pieces without this extra detail, but the extra detail, look, makes a huge difference, right? They painted it brown, so you actually have the brown straps going across. Cool leather there. You got some stitching in the back, which I could probably utilize what I did with the Scarecrow, by the way. If you haven't seen that video, my customization of Scarecrow from Arkham Knight, check that out, because that was, you know, pretty cool way to make these look really good. But look at that. Got the cool tears, cool details. You have the pants. I love they went to this darker tone. It's almost like a brownish, maroonish type color, which I think looks really good. So a dark tone. And then you have the boots here, right? So definitely like an armor look. Yeah, look at that. All those details look so good. And then the weapon, right? They did the hook weapon. And they even dry brushed some silver on it too to make it stick out a little bit better. So overall, this figure is outstanding. I had to do no customization on it, and I really don't think you really need to. Could you make it better? Oh, you could always make it better. But overall, as far as figures go, this is almost a perfect figure. Detail, like I said, looks great. The paint application, they did extra paint apps on this one that look really cool. The character design looks phenomenal. The articulation is great. You can get it some pretty good poses, and the articulation is not that bad. Now, you will have a little hindrance here in the bottom, but there are some open slits to where you can get some decent poses out of them. But overall, great. And the height stands at a pretty good height compared to some of the others. But yeah, super great figure. If you have the opportunity to pick it up, go for it. I know they have the bloody variant, which I didn't get. However, if it goes cheap enough, I might get that, because that does look pretty menacing as well. But overall, thank you for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Feel free to like, subscribe, and check out my other reviews, customizations, etc., my other top 10 lists, because I did do quite a few of those lists. And thank you all so much. That was the MK11 McFarlane top 10 list so far. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you next time.